So I'm just going to leave this here. I think Poetic is the king of affordable cases. Their products are well priced, but unlike some of the other, we'll say, discount brands or budget brands out there, it seems like Poetic actually takes the time to design most of their products. But here's the problem I have in general with affordable budget cases is that, well, you do get what you pay for, and generally they are made of cheaper material, so they make my iPhone feel cheap. And that's a problem because the newest iPhones, they are not cheap. So the question I had to answer for myself in this review is, do these Poetic cases make my iPhone feel cheap? Now, it's been several years since I've done a standalone Poetic video, so I figured it was time to kind of revisit the manufacturer of one of my favorite cases for the iPhone 7, the Poetic Affinity. Sadly, they don't make this case anymore. They should, but they don't. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So what do I think is the best case between the Poetic Revolution, LUMOS, Nubuck, and Guardian? Well, it's this Guardian. At MobileReviewsEh, Monty and I base all our videos on actual usage. After I use the cases for a while, I share my findings with Monty, who then adds my findings to his numbers workbook where he rates all the cases across 20 plus criteria, and then tells me where the case sits. Poetic Revolution. Now, some of the pros is that it has a kickstand, has lots of texture. The buttons are quite nice to use and has a built-in screen protector. Now, when it comes to cons, well, it has a built-in screen protector. The fit is a little questionable, and you will never be able to cut your fingernails anymore if you plan on using the kickstand. Now, the Revolution is probably Poetic's flashiest cases. There's a lot going on with this case, and that's kind of a bad thing from my perspective anyways. It looks like this case has like real screws on it if you look from it from afar, but it's really just some of the TPU that's been squirted through the polycarbonate and formed to make it look like it has screws. Now, if you're to extraneous crap like that, then yeah, this Poetic Revolution is going to be great for you. Now, for me personally, I feel that my $1,800 iPhone deserves a case that has a cleaner design, but that's my personal preference. The Poetic Revolution is the thickest case out of the four that I have used, but the bulk isn't going to be that noticeable given how big the iPhone XS Max is. Poetic tends to add a bit more material to the corner of the case, which adds to the drop protection, which is kind of nice, I guess. Now, the Poetic Revolution is the only case that I have a fit issue with. Out of all the Poetic cases I've reviewed this time around, there is a sharp edge, and I'm going to assume that this is a one-off manufacturing issue, but that one sharp edge does cheapen the feel of my iPhone, and that's a bad thing. The Revolution won't slide around easily when placed face first or on its back. It will add about 64 grams to your iPhone, so it's not totally light, but the weight isn't noticeable, and in terms of wear and tear, I had no issues with it during my review period. Now, when it comes to overall design, the Poetic Revolution and Poetic Guardian share similar design aspects, so I'm going to spend some time to talk about both these cases here. Both cases have two layers to them. The iPhone sits in a polycarbonate frame that gets wrapped in TPU. This design feature is similar to the Otterbox Defender. In general, this style of design from my perspective will result in better drop protection. The edges of the case are high enough to easily keep the screen protector off a flat surface. Both the Guardian and Revolution has dust covers for the lightning port and the mute switch, which is nice for people who need that sort of dust protection. Now, when it comes to drop protection, despite having a similar design to the Otterbox Defender, the materials on the Guardian are much thinner, so it won't be as tough. I'd be comfortable dropping my iPhone from only waist height in these products. And when it comes to built-in screen protectors, I'm generally not sold on them, but Poetic does do a great job in almost convincing me that them adding a built-in screen protector is a decent idea. My opinion of built-in screen protectors isn't very high, but have been buoyed slightly since coming across these Poetic cases, as well as some Pelican cases, so if Pelican's using them, maybe they're not completely terrible. When it comes to accessing your iPhone, I didn't have any issues as the buttons are quite nice to use. The lightning port is accessible, but you do have to deal with the flap. It does get easier to use over time, and there are no issues in terms of camera access, even with the front one with the built-in screen protector. Now, apart from the sharp edge, the Revolution generally handles well. There is a kickstand on the back of the case, and Poetic does a good job of making it large enough for it to be stable. Unlike the Spigen Tough Armor kickstand, where a slight breeze might knock it down, the one on the Revolution will not. My only problem is that the kickstand is hard to use even when you have long fingernails, and is almost impossible to use when you don't have long fingernails, which is kind of why I say you don't ever get to cut your fingernails anymore with this product. When it comes to the built-in screen protector, I was not as annoyed with it as I thought I would be. There's still some usability issues along the corners. You're going to have to do some double taps to get to something that usually just takes one tap. Usability aside, the viewability actually was decent in terms of a plastic screen protector. The gap is very minimized, so glare isn't a big problem with these plastic screen protectors on Poetic cases. The rainbowing actually isn't that bad most of the time. It's most noticeable when you put it in your pocket and then you pull it out after you've kind of like sat on it for a while or put it against your body. That rainbowing does occur, but it does disappear, but it does still exist. That doesn't happen with glass screen protectors. And the last thing about these plastic screen protectors is that you will, if you take, old school phone calls, you're going to notice how greasy your face is, and plastic screen protectors are just brutal for grease marks. Now, if this was a waterproof case with the plastic screen protector, all you need to do is, well, just clean it with some soap and water. But if you do that with the Poetic Revolution or Guardian, water might get caught between the screen protector and the device. And again, it makes my $1,800 iPhone look a little cheap. Now, with all that stuff out of the way, yeah, it's not great. It works. The protection's not bad. But what's my biggest problem, despite all those things that I've just talked about when it comes to these plastic screen protectors, is that it cheapens the look of my iPhone screens. With the 2018 iPhones, most of the new, well, I guess the XR only has a LED screen. The XS and the XS Max come with OLED screens, and you are literally covering up the best looking part of the iPhone with something that's, well, kind of greasy. And that doesn't make any sense to me because that's the best part. It's like, you're eating a prime rib steak and you're going to overcook it. Onto the Poetic LUMOS. Now, in terms of pros, it's grippy, it's clear, it's a clear case. It might be slightly tougher than the average clear case that doesn't have air pockets. And the cons is that it's incredibly boring. The LUMOS is the only 100% clear case in Poetic's lineup. And I'm going to spend about 13 seconds talking about it because this is just your generic run-of-the-mill clear case. It has a tacky feel, shows fingerprinting like nobody's business, has air pockets for additional drop protection, and the matrix of dots on the inside of the case break up some of the fingerprinting. That's it. There's literally nothing special about the LUMOS. If you're finding this video helpful, consider getting your stuff through my links. This video's not sponsored. Poetic did send me, these 4 cases that cost them like $40 retail, $3 to actually make. The iPhones that you watched me drop in this video are not sponsored, so I'm taking on a lot of risk to show you how well these really cheap cases work. So I'm going to talk about the Nubuck, which I've already talked about in my top 10 wallet cases for the iPhone. The pros is that it has a unique finish and it has a different design. The cons is that it will not offer your iPhone much protection. Now, I do like the Poetic Nubuck. Why? Because it's different. Poetic decided to use a bit of fabric on the back side of the case, which makes this case feel different. Now, if you've been watching my channel, you know I did a big wallet videos a couple of weeks ago, and you know that I've kind of gotten bored of companies that just add a tiny bit of leather to their plastic cases to make it feel fancier. Leather and plastic, boring. Leather, fabric, and plastic, well, that's way cooler. That change in texture actually makes the Nubuck feel more like a high-end accessory for the iPhone rather than just a normal card case. Now, in terms of size, the Nubuck is tiny. It does not add much bulk to your iPhone and fits your iPhone quite well. The edges of the case are very shallow, so make sure you get a screen protector. The case wears well over time, and the overall combination of the fabric, leather, and TPU handle quite well. Now, out of the 4 cases, the Nubuck is the least protective case in this video, as I doubt it will handle much more than a drop over 1 meter. Now, if you're not too clumsy with your devices, the Poetic Nubuck is a worthwhile accessory. But if you're mildly clumsy, and I'm talking about you drop your iPhone like once every month, and you're looking for a wallet case, this might not be the product for you because it will offer so very, very little in terms of drop protection. Now, I had no issues with accessing my iPhone in the Nubuck. Cards are easily accessible in the pocket, so it's perfect for those who just need to use their iPhone with a bus pass or with an RFID access card. On to the last case, which is the Poetic Guardian. Now, in terms of pros, it covers everything, like the Revolution does. It has a built-in screen protector, the clear back is raised, there are oversized corners, and the iPhone is exceptionally easy to use in this case. Now, the cons is that it has a built-in screen protector, which I've already talked about. It makes your phone greasy, it traps dust and debris, and it scratches easily. Now, out of Poetic's entire lineup, the Guardian is my favorite. Why? Because the design of the case doesn't make my iPhone feel cheap. It still has a built-in screen protector, which I'm not a big fan of, but I've already talked about it. As I said a few minutes earlier, the Guardian and Revolution share a similar design, so everything I've said about the Revolution is going to apply to the Guardian, except for the aesthetics of the case. Instead of having a bunch of fake screws, the Guardian has a clear back with clean lines at the bottom. There is nothing visually jarring about the back of this case, which is great. great. The Guardian is the thicker case on paper, but that's due to the tiny feet that prop up the back of the case, which minimize the scratching on the clear back. The corners are larger than the Revolution, which means it can handle drops a little better. The standout feature for the Guardian is the finish on the TPU edge. The matte finish isn't as abrasive as the Guardian's and feels quite nice. Overall, it just feels like a suitable finish on an accessory for a stupidly expensive iPhone. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this case doesn't make my iPhone look cheap. It makes it look quite nice, and that's something I can't say for the Poetic Revolution. It's something I can't say, well, for the LUMOS. It's just a plain clear case. And, well, the Nubuck, again, is similar to the Guardian in that it enhances the look of my iPhone, we'll say. First time watching one of my videos, I do encourage you to click subscribe, produce content lately, not very often, because these videos take so long to finish, and I've been sick, which sucks. But upcoming new year, a lot of stuff planned for you guys, so pretty excited. Thanks for watching. High five. Nothing? All right. Go!